Really early this year / late last year, I was on Tumblr and I ended up finding this 30-day art challenge. I saved it to my computer and proceeded to completely forget about it. But now, this August, I actually committed myself to it, so I am very pleased to present this 30-day art challenge. I am actually in awe that I completed it all, let alone on time. So, without any further ado, let's begin. Day 1. Draw a self-portrait. Day 1 was pretty easy for me. I actually adore doing self-portraits. For some of these days, I use Procreate, and we've just got to deal with the subpar speed paints, but that won't be how it looks for most of these. It's a pretty bog-standard self-portrait for me, but I think it turned out cute. Day 2. Draw a figure using a reference. I really enjoy figure studies and do them pretty often in my sketchbook or in classes. I did this day in my sketchbook, so I don't have any recording, but here's the picture. Day 3. Draw a figure in motion. I used the website Bodies in Motion for this. Most of their stuff is behind a paywall, so I worked with what I could. I'm really out of practice with figure drawings, but I have a huge bias towards 1 to 5 minute studies, so I did 3 short on-time figures. They're not as good as they could be, but unfortunately, there will be a theme of me being a bit too tired to do my best. Day 4. Draw a part of the human anatomy you have trouble with 20 times, with at least 5 being skeletal or muscular studies. I was originally going to do hands here, but I've honestly done quite a few hand studies, even if I'm not great at them yet, so I went with legs. I've never done a leg study before, and I've also never done a muscle or skeletal study of any sort, so I hope I'm doing it all correctly. I really like drawing legs, even though I'm not good at them, so I did enjoy this day. Day 5. Draw 20 quick gestures / silhouettes. First off, I did run out of time on this one and only did 16, but I had fun, so it doesn't matter. I decided to do it with just 2 tones, and as simple as it is, I really enjoyed the final product. I do need to practice more with my 10+ minute figures, though. Day 6. Design a character from a character generator. I got the stealthy assassin who doesn't understand the younger generation and has an endless supply of gadgets. I decided to use Clip Studio Paint for this one since I bought some exclusive CSP-only brushes and wanted to test them out. Honestly, this was such a great day to test these brushes. I ended up giving this character kind of a bird's nest hairstyle, and the blotchy pen gave it this cool effect. I also love getting to give characters non-human skin tones without them being non-human. He's blue the same way anime girls' hair grows out of their heads pink. I did accidentally miss the part about misunderstanding the younger generation, so this guy is now just a born-in-the-wrong-generation type who doesn't get Twitter but does understand, like, laser guns. Day 7. Pick the weirdest object in your house / room. Draw it. Shadows and highlights. For this day, there was one clear choice. I used Clip Studio for this again. This drawing was super simple, but I enjoyed making it. I usually lean more towards a graphic style, so I'm not exactly sure why I went more painterly here, but I did. Meet my rendition of Abraxas Geraldine Lucifer III. I beg you to go easy on that name. I was 13 years old. Day 8. Draw 2 to 3 objects and make a scene with them. Looking around my room, I found my snail Beanie Baby, which also happens to be the best Beanie Baby ever made, and this lollipop that my piercer gave me when I got my snake bites. This prompt said bonus points for dramatic lighting, but mine ended up being softer since it's just a cute little snail licking a lollipop. He's adorable though, so I like how this turned out. Day 9. Draw a landscape of a place you've never been or drawn. I went with this as my reference since I really love the colors. I just got a new set of brushes for this day, so you'll see me experimenting with them. I really like the finished product of this one. This is probably because even though I consider myself better at drawing characters, I always just prefer backgrounds. They're just a lot more rewarding for me. Day 10. Draw a background with 1 point perspective. Negative points if it's a railroad or an empty street. I struggled with this one. I'm not very good at technical perspective like this, or perspective at all. It's nice to get to practice though since I do love backgrounds, so ultimately I'm not too mad at how this turned out. Day 11. Draw a background with 2 point perspective. I had a much easier time with this one. I went with a pretty basic 2 point perspective study, but I can, comprehend 2 point perspective better than 1 point. Pretty simple couple of days since I chose not to make a full illustration. Day 12. Look out a window. Draw what you see. My plan was to use a window near my room for reference, but when I got it to this point, I just realized that it was not working out. So I went downstairs and chose a window from there. I got to use those foliage brushes again, which is amazing noise for me. I feel like this turned out really homey and warm, so I'm happy with it. Day 13. Draw an interior setting with the character you designed on day 6 in it. Fair warning, I did miss the part that said interior, so this is outside. I decided to return a clip studio paint and just do a piece of him dragging out some post-assassination bodies. I love getting to use green and blues in my pieces, so this was a ton of fun, even if the line work turned out kind of wonky. Day 14. Background with either bird's eye or worm's eye view. My plan was to draw some 60s themed diner, but I forgot that my absolute worst enemy in life is drawing chairs. Try as I might, I cannot do it. So I switched to a worm's eye view of a tree. I had some trouble figuring out how to do the lights and shadows, and my values ended up wonkier than I wanted. However, I think it looks overall fine. I do need to stop avoiding drawing chairs, though. Day 15. Halfway there, draw 3 action scenes with different compositions in each. Quick sketches are fine. I chose to do some doodles with my OC. They're all character-based, which might have not been true to the prompt. I'm also not exactly sure if they count as action. They're just kind of stabby, so this might not be true to the prompt at all. The 2 main characters, the ones on the left, get in quite a few murderous altercations with the guys on the right, so that's what I drew. The first 2 are the antagonists fighting with the MCs, and then some revenge. I genuinely cannot wait to share more about these OCs in their world. They are everything to me. Day 16. Draw a single-page comic with 5 to 7 panels. The story begins and ends on 1 page. Sorry about the missing footage. I was really stuck on what to do for a comic and wasn't recording my brainstorming. I originally took this prompt as it probably meant, which was a character-driven comic. I kept trying to make it work, but even though I do have a comic project in the works right now, I was coming up short. So I took this prompt a bit differently and did a little how-to guide. I beyond enjoy and often dress in emo fashion, and to music gatekeepers, yes, I think 2000s pop punk can be emo, and this fashion is emo too. Anyway, this guide is all below the waist since I didn't have enough room. I wanted to make another page since I enjoyed making the first, but the prompt's a single page, and I don't want to break too many rules. I kept this pretty loose and sketchy and used a fun limited palette, so I'm glad I deviated from the character comic. Day 17. Draw an animal you've never drawn before, times 10. I couldn't tell you why, but I went with alligators. There's a lot of animals I think I may have had a harder time with, like a cat or a dog, but I have drawn them at least once, so I'm taking this prompt very literally. Since I had a reference for all of them, this day wasn't too much of a struggle. I liked getting to give them goofy eyes. Day 18. Draw a car. Back to Clip Studio Paint. School had just begun for me, so the next couple of days are a bit lazy. I drew a pretty basic Toyota and moved on. I was, and still am, in desperate need of a nap. Day 19. Think of the thing you hate drawing the most. Guess what? Draw it. Negative points for lying to yourself. I'm still tired from school on this day, but I stayed honest and drew my least favorite thing to draw, which is chairs. I hate those things, but it wasn't completely awful since I only had to do one and had the help of some references. Day 20. Pick an object in your house/room. Now design a character from it, using the shapes, forms, textures, purpose, and colors as inspiration. I chose my keyboard. I built it myself, and even though the first time I built a keyboard I did it perfectly, this one just has some keys that did not fit in the case, so there's some blue bits just hanging around. Most of this design is based around the boxy shape of a keyboard and the brown and cream colors of the keys, though to represent the parts without the keys that glow, I gave her these cool glowing cracks/scars and a hat to represent the volume button. I also ended up kind of unhappy with this drawing, so here's a follow-up I did a couple days later. Day 21. Draw a character, object, scene, and shade them using only solid black/whites. As much as I've enjoyed a challenge I did before with only 4 values, halving that number made things very hard for me. I think it's hard to tell what's going on, but I went with a tree in the foreground and some mountains behind it. I'm moving quickly past this one in favor of Day 22. Draw a different object/scene/character, shade using hatching, cross-hatching, and/or pointillism. For an object, I went with this salt shaker cat I have and hatching. I've never studied any sort of traditional forms of shading, so this was a lot of me drawing diagonal lines and keeping my fingers crossed that I was doing it right, but it wasn't as bad as the last day, so there's that. Day 23. Colors. Pick a color palette and paint a scene/character/object using only those colors. For this, I chose to do a drawing I was already going to do a limited color palette on. This is a page for a fan comic for the show Our Flag Means Death with lyrics from the song Pash Rash. I love working with blues and yellows/oranges. I was glad for the excuse to practice comics again too, though maybe I should get some variety seeing as I've done 2 blue and yellow comics in this challenge. Day 24. Draw and color a scene / object / character. No lines allowed, aka lineless art. Don't forget light and shadows. I used this day as a chance to do some art I already wanted to do, since my art style is lineless anyway. This is homework for an online class I'm currently taking, and the task was to draw your room in daylight. My room is very dark with nothing but daylight shining through it, so it looks a bit darker than I wanted. I also tried using layer masks to add highlights for the first time, so that considered, I think I did an alright job on this one. However, I came back to it a couple weeks later and really got to improve it. Day 25. Draw a scene / character in a style you've never drawn before. For this, I chose to study this character designer. I'm really envious of how loose but still controlled his lines are. I also enjoyed getting to study his loose black and white color style. I'm pretty unhappy with how it came out, but I'm taking that as an excuse to do more studies. Day 26. Draw a character. Draw 10 emotions / expressions. I get to test out some expressions with one of the main characters in my comic, T. It's a lot of angry or crying or tired expressions because honestly, they are not happy most of the time. I got to do some kind of murderous revenge as the last emotion though, so maybe that's a kind of happiness. Day 27. Draw 3 random shapes using your opposite hand, or your foot. Now design characters from those shapes. I tried drawing a circle, triangle, and square with my left hand, which I am unbelievably skilled at doing. I was originally going to do heads for the characters, but that alone felt a little boring, so I gave them bodies and decided that they all work at this ice cream parlor together. That's why the middle and right have similar outfits. The guy on the left works there too, but I think he just doesn't care about health code violations or something. Day 28. Turn on the TV, pick an actor, and draw them. I took this as an excuse to draw an Andor from What We Do in the Shadows. He's played by Kayvon Novak, and I wanted to do the specific awkward smile he does with the fangs in. It's so charming to me. I can't draw or study realistically to save my life, so this is still stylized even if that wasn't the intent of the prompt. But I don't care. Fox style and Andor forever. Day 29. Draw some fan art. Continuation of my wit from day 23. This entire thing will hopefully be an 11-page comic that, fingers crossed, will be finished by the time you're seeing this. I'm really not great at paneling and other comic things, so this project is partially comic practice and mainly me being crazy about our flagbean's death. Day 30. Find a drawing you did within the last year. Now draw it again using what you've learned. I wanted to choose something a bit more recent, so I picked a Spider-Verse drawing from June. Since I focused on drawing backgrounds this summer, I kind of naturally got better at making my drawings more interesting, I guess. I use the same colors, so I can call it a redraw, but I overhauled the composition completely. I'm trying to focus on having better compositions, really, and this felt like a good excuse. I also got to draw Hobie's face and costume with the mask on. I'm not quite happy with the values, but I like the red and blue next to the green and purple. And that's 30. I feel like this challenge did help me improve and definitely had me create some pieces I love that I wouldn't have made otherwise. I've linked the original Tumblr post in case you want to do this yourself. But with all that said, I hope you enjoyed. Bye.